everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and we continue with the Ramchal's The Governance of Time. We are currently in the 7th millennia, and this is the Passageway to Eternity. So 6,000 years to cover in 4 classes is no small task, but we do our best. The most active of these times is during the transition. We're talking about the end of the 6th going into the 7th. We're currently in that time, as the world and reality as we know it changes. The new reality and world begin to take shape, and we can only hope and pray that we are the ones mentioned in Daniel 12:3, where it said, "And the wise will shine like the brightness of the firmament, and those who bring the multitudes to righteousness like the stars forevermore." As we said, the secret of the great day of judgment at the end of the 6,000 years is that of the unknown, which will become known. The simplest way I can explain this meaning is like the title of the movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It is the seen, the unseen, the hidden, the revealed, everything and nothing, all at the same time. Like I said, the title of the movie, I didn't watch the movie, but that's what this is. This is what we're talking about. Everything, everywhere, all at once will be revealed. This is the best way that I can describe, or the concept of the unknown, also known as the governance of the concealed, which will be revealed. Now, we need to understand this is not something that we can fathom in this reality when it comes about, which is why we must change along with it. And our work begins when we enter this world. That's when we already have to start doing a tikkun. That being said, what this process of the unknown does, it transfers the governance of time to the governance of eternity. Eternity means no time. The 7th millennia is the beginning of this eternal governance, where the world begins to strip itself of its form, again, as we know it. This form being the governance of time, as everything is under it and abides by it. Cycles, seasons, life, death. Time does not stop, but it governs all until now, meaning until this point. This will be done through the concept of the 12-hour destruction, which was mentioned in the last class. I said we'd be discussing it, and here we are. The poetic justice in all this is that even time itself is governed by a clock, which at that time will change its form and take a new one. Even time itself will change, one where times become eternity via the renewal of the world. And according to the Ramchal, the 7th millennia is in the aspect of one destroyed, Chad Charuv, from last class. And so, what happens in the 7th millennia? Now, we've already seen in the book of Rules, Sefer HaKlalim, that the Holy One, blessed be He, gives wings to the righteous as they hover above the waters after the resurrection of the dead, of course. The holiness of the soul will sustain the heaviness of the material so that the righteous will have no need for bodily sustenance. Food, sleep, rest, shelter, heat, cold, etc. And all this is done through this reality, but it has not yet been renewed. Now, right now, we're talking about the process of what will be. So this is the process going into that new reality. And so, what is one destroyed, Chad Charuv, of the 7th millennia according to the Ramchal? He says in his book, Adir B'Marom, Exalted on High, as taken from the one of the secret books within the Zohar, the Book of Modesty, Sifra Ditzniuta, it says, and it will all be destroyed in 12 hours. Ve'etcharev kula betreisar sha'ata. Now, I realize that I'm going to have to translate that passage, otherwise we won't fully understand the Ramchal's observations. So, the Hebrew says, Hebrew and Aramaic, V'zehu sod, this is a secret, ma shenemar besifra detzniuta ve'itcharev kulat betreisar sha'ata. And this is a secret as it is written in the Sifra Ditzniuta, it's all destroyed in 12 hours. הוא ב-12 שעות של הנוקבה שהיא התבטלה והוא ב-12 שעות הלילה. This is the 12 hours of the feminine aspect, that everything will be destroyed, right? Which will be concealed as they are the 12 hours of night. ויאמר אלוהים יהי אור, בבוקר מתחדשים, בסוד חדשים לבקרים, באור כידוע. And Elohim said, let there be light. As in the morning, there is renewal. This is the secret of what it says in Lamentations 3:23. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Chodashim labkarim rabba emunatecha. Every morning, it's like the world is renewed. ולכן אומרים בשחרית בברכות יוצר אור, המחדש בטובו, and so on. This is why we say in the morning prayer the blessings before the Shema of He who forms light and renews in His goodness the acts of Bereshit. מחדש בכל יום מעשה בראשית. Every day the world is like recreated. כאמור לעושה אורים גדולים. Also, to He who makes great light, or the great luminaries, which is taken from Psalms 136:7. Le'oseh orim gdolim ki le'olam chasdo. To Him who made great luminaries, for in kindness, His kindness is eternal. V'chad ata tzafra kalehu mitchadshin, and every morning everything is renewed. Ubeparashat kudei mehacha nafku inu nehorin de'akrun lehat acherev. Now, this is what we briefly discussed this part last week, and in Parshat Pekudei, from the Zohar, these great lights can be seen as the blade of the revolving sword. Okay, so that was the section. Now let's see what the Ramchal has to say about it. He took this section, now here's his breakdown. He says this, behold, one thing that is difficult must be understood regarding the 7,000 years of the world. Why would it not all be destroyed in one instant and then rebuilt in the same instant according to the will of God? Why then do we need 1,000 years, right? God could, boom, and there's a whole new reality. We can understand from this that the entire seventh millennia will not evolve, but last for 1,000 years, as it was in the beginning, from the end of the sixth. He continues. And if you say that the governance of time is to be removed by the end of the sixth, why then could the Chad Charuv, the one destroyed, not have taken place within the 6,000 years and just start a completely new and permanent reality in the seventh? Meaning, why is now another 1,000 years for a renewal process? Why not over the course of 6,000 years? This is what he's asking. Furthermore, he says, it would seem that the words of the Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon, who wrote the Zohar, regarding the 12 hours that the world will be destroyed, are in fact the 6,000 years. Therefore, 500 years are counted as half a day. 6,000 divided by 12 is 500. Day, there's Yom, and then there's Laila. Yom and Laila is Yom Echad. That's 24 hours. But Yom is 12 hours of the day. Laila is 12 hours of the day. So this is where we get the 500. Okay, 6,000 divided by 12 is 500. Now this is difficult, since why do we not consider also the hours of the night as well? Does it not say in Genesis 1:5, and God called the light day and the darkness He called night, and it was evening and it was morning, Yom Echad, like we just said, one day? Do we understand the Ramchal's question? I hope so. It's fairly simple. Let me explain it. Just to recap, it says in Psalms 90 verse 4, for 1,000 years are in your eyes like yesterday, right? Keyom. That's what it says in the Hebrew. Ki elef shanim be'enecha keyom etmol. Ki avo. So 1,000 years to us is a day for God, right? We understand from this 1,000 years is a 24-hour day period. Ki elef shanim be'enecha keyom. But the Rashbi says it is actually 12 hours, meaning of day. And so 500 years is half a day. That's the question. And so let's continue with the Ramchal's answer. This is not a simple answer, and there are terms we first need to discuss. So I'll try and break it down. I was wondering how exactly I should do this, but these terms cannot just be translated because they each carry a meaning behind them, which is connected to a greater picture. Okay, so I'll give you a small gist of the terms and then read the Ramchal's answer, because I guarantee you, if I just read his answer, you won't understand anything. Even after I give you the terms and you pause and rewind the video to try and plug these things in, you're going to have difficulty understanding, but we'll break it down. Okay, so after I'll give you these terms, whether you understand it or not, just take it as the rule moving forward. Okay, this is kind of going off. I'm bringing it to you in a way that you can understand. All right. So first we have Arichanpin, the large face, the primordial face, which was constructed from the attribute of Keter. This represents the governance of reality itself and the perfect goodness derived from the supernal will in order to benefit all. Everything comes from that. Atik, the ancient, the primordial face from the world of emanation, because it is only for the needs and use of God, which was constructed from the Adam Kadmon, primordial man. That is Adam Kadmon. Now, what is Adam Kadmon, primordial man? When we say it in class, this is the string of light. It's not like, oh, that's how man was. This is how man was formed, okay? This is the string of light that descends from the eternal blessed be he after the tzimtzum, the constriction, right? Which connects to the space. So first of all, God created within himself a space. Within this space, you had a string of light come in. This is the formation of primordial man. This is what it means. This is how creation began, and it all has to do, man is the culmination and completion of creation, essentially. So all of creation is connected directly to man. So again, this is the string of light that descends from the eternal blessed be he after the tzimtzum, which connects to the space, meaning everything, and that is the image of man, not man today, but spiritual man. This is the first order that the emanated light received to be able to stand in the image of the 10 sfirot, the 10 attributes, in the aspect of the image of man. The term Adam Kadmon hints towards the governance of eternity, because it was not created to be destroyed, rather created to stand forever and to constantly grow, never be stagnant. Nothing is stagnant. If you're not ascending, you're descending. So too in the spiritual world. Just to give you an understanding of how other religions think that God can look like a man is because they think that man was created looking like we do. It's a very basic mistake. And if we were created in the image of God, then there you go. God must look like me. Okay. That could not be further from the truth, as man was created a spiritual being that filled up the entire created space of reality. And it does not say in the image of Yud-K Vav-K, the four-letter name, where all reality and all names actually come from, but rather it says Elohim, which is the feminine aspect and represents judgment, coinciding with the natural order of this world. Okay, so when we say supernal judgment or judgment, the aspect of judgment, it's not like that, okay, judge, jury, and executioner. We're talking about judgment are borders and boundaries. Judgment is very necessary. El Shaddai, that's how he was known to the patriarchs. Ha'el, the God, She'amar Dai, who said enough, stop, until here, hence borders and boundaries, that is judgment. Chesed is giving. Judgment says until here, right? If you have a person who has a problem and they ask for money and you give them money and you keep giving them money, they now rely on you. You are now enabling them. You are not actually helping them, even though you are giving, you're doing them damage, right? So your judgment needs to say until here, or to say, listen, I'm going to give you this much until this time. You need to go get a job, or you need to start doing for yourself. That's the kind of supernal righteous judgment that we were talking about from God. It's not a bad thing. It's a necessary thing. Without it, the world could not stand. Reality could not be. Okay? So we have to understand God's terms and man's terms according to today's understanding, which is completely off. Next, we have dikna. These are the channels which transfer the light of the supernal concealed wisdom to flow downward through the created worlds. And then we have Mazal and Nakeh, the feminine aspect which receives from the 8th and 13th attributes of mercy. Tamir, what are you talking about? Hey, I'm trying to teach you guys, so just listen. So those are the terms. Now here are the Ramchal's words. Okay. I'm just going to read through this. There are 7 rectifications in the head of Arichanpin, plug that in, and they are derived from Atik, plug that in. And the 13 rectifications of Dikna, within Arich Anpin, which is the governance. Their secret is Chesed, Din, Rachamim. Cheder is room, by the way. Chesed, loving kindness, judgment, Din, and mercy, Rachamim. In the secret aspect of the male and Mazal and Nakeh, which is the 13th rectification, in the secret of the female that receives. Therefore, the first 7 rectifications illuminate the Dikna, 6 within the 12 rectifications in the secret of the male, and the 7th in the 13th rectification in the secret of the female. But the truth of the matter is that the majority of the governance in the world today is in the secret of the 12 alone. We're talking about the 12 hours of which the world will be destroyed, right? And within this secret, 7 days are produced for the 7 first rectifications for 12 hours each, and they are 7,000 years. The explanation of the matter is this. You should know that Mazal and Nakeh, from all the first 12 hours, is what is produced, but rather it is called the 13th rectification in regard to them. However, if we calculate the individual rectifications of Dikna, there will be 24, 12 in the secret of the male and 12 in the secret of the female, which is Mazal and Nakeh. Anybody understand that? No? Don't feel bad, okay? But that was the straight up translation. So in other words, if you're reading that, if this would be translated to English, this is what you would be reading. I didn't find a translation for this, and I try to make it as simple as possible. But let me now try and explain this to you without getting too deep into these Kabbalistic terms, because again, this is not the class. This is a compilation of everywhere that the Ramchal within his works has been speaking about the governance of time. If you really want to understand this, you got to go through all the Ramchal's books and actually understand it. Good luck with that. So, let's try and do this. Reality is governed by energies which always have to be balanced, and they are male and female. Everything has male and female energy, male and female balance. Male is chesed, loving kindness, and female is judgment. This is not a thing. It's not a bad thing, okay? I have to keep saying this because people might already be female judgment. Look at the house. Look at the home. Whose home is it? It is the female's home. The female says what's what. The male's job is to give, and the female's job is to say, Ad kan. That's what's up. This is how God governs the universe. Everything is derived from the secret of Arich, which is the crown, Keter, the top of the 10 Sfirot. Everything trickles down from there. However, there is another element that we need in order for reality to exist, and that is the 13 principles of faith, coinciding with the aforementioned 13 rectifications. And even within them, there are the aspects of male and female. All that, what I just said, that is the principle. But this is the rule moving forward. According to the Ramchal's explanation, to the Rashbi's statements, 12 hours equals 1,000 years. Why? That's to answer this question. How could you say that it's only 12 hours and not 24 hours? So the Ramchal says, so you see that the 7th millennia we mentioned time, since it is 1,000 years, meaning the 7th millennia is 1,000 years. But at the end of the 1,000 years, there is no more time, for that is already the eternity. Though the 8th millennia had been mentioned, this is not time as we know it, but rather it is what follows the 7th. Each millennia acts as one of the tikkunim, rectifications of the 7 lower sfirot, the 7 lower attributes. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. And by the rule of the 7th day, the governance itself changes form. Therefore, it must always be 12 hours, no more, no less, because even the 7th day, or 7th millennia, does not function according to itself, but rather how it connects the other 6, for it exists in time as the other 6 do, being 12 hours a day. It's still, the 7th millennia, though it is outside of time as we know it, still connects to the 6,000 years. But the 8th, after what's happening with time and reality then, the 8th that comes after the 7th is not included in this rule. It's a whole new reality then, right? For up until that point, everything is within the 12-hour rule. But after the seventh, there is a new governance structure, and that is eternity from the aspect of the seventh, as it does not connect to the 6 days at all. As it functions, its functions are separate. And so it is found that the destruction is in 12 hours, meaning in the 12 rectifications like the other days, and that is the secret of 1,000 years. Okay, let that sink in for a second. To sum it all up, the seventh millennia works within the 6,000 years, but does not function like it. Connected to them, but not governed under those rules. It's like Shabbat, very simple, right? It is part of the week. You have 7 days a week. You have the Sabbath day, the Shabbat, it's part of the week, but it has completely different rules. It is governed on a different reality. It's a separate day that we are told to prepare for before we enter into it, which is what we should be doing before we enter into the seventh millennia. The eighth millennia takes us off that track completely, and we will get to that in the next class, of course. So in essence, the seventh millennia acts as a Shabbat to the 6,000 years that came before it. Whatever and however you prepare beforehand is what your seventh millennia, your Shabbat, is going to look like. To explain what we said before regarding the two aspects of the seventh, which are 1, its connection to the 6,000 years, and 2, its own unique properties not connected to the 6,000 years, the Ramchal explains. The renewal of the seventh is in the aspect of eternity, as all the 6,000 years remain as they are. New reality, new governance of time over here. This means that once we pass the 6,000, it means that they had already been rectified and perfected. We're not going back. That is done. Great. Now from this point, we're moving forward. Then that perfection gets carried into the seventh millennia. I've given this example before. From my understanding from other teachings, think of a pyramid, okay? So the bottom of the pyramid, that's basically creation. We have to get to the top of the pyramid, the top of the triangle, if you will, and that is perfection, right? That's when the world has been perfected. In other words, the physical world is at its peak, physical, spiritual peak, as it can within that time. Then the absolute peak of this reality becomes the bottom part, the starting point of the new reality, and we just move up from there. Okay? Okay. So triangle going this way, right? That's the top, and now triangle going upside down. Because like we said, this world is olam hafuch. This world is literally upside down from what it is in reality. This is not reality. This is a fallen physical projection of the spiritual reality. Okay? All right. So that is a perfection that gets carried from the seventh millennia. As the Ramchal says, this is the secret of, in 13, he will establish in mercy when the 6,000 are renewed. These, of course, are the 13 principles of mercy. And then think of the 6,000 as a new perfected reality, and that is the very base going upward, just like we said. He continues, understand this well. There is a secret here of 2 Sabbaths. 2 Shabbatot, as our sages say in Masechet Shabbat 118b. If Israel were to properly keep 2 Sabbaths, they would immediately be redeemed. I believe we've mentioned this in past teachings. How could it be possible that Israel never kept 2 Shabbatot properly over the course of 3,500 years? How is that even possible, right? In the days of Moses, in the days of David, the days of Samuel, the days of Solomon, the days of Hezekiah, the days of Asa, the days of Yoshiao. How could this be that Israel did not keep 2 Shabbatot, one after the other, properly? The simple answer is not that Israel has failed, but rather the perfected Israel must keep these 2 Shabbatot. It's not about how they did it. It's who did it. What state were they in when they did it? You see? And that can only happen after the final rectification. When all Israel are perfectly rectified, now the perfect Israel will keep 2 Shabbatot. Boom. That's what flips the world on its head. The first Sabbath is for the rectification of the crown of Yesod, foundation. Yesod is foundation. And the second is for the rectification of the Nukva. What is the Nukva? Nukva is the Aramaic word for female. Nekeva, Nukva. As we see in Genesis 1:27. And Elohim created man in his image. In the image of Elohim he created him. Male and female he created them. Vayivara Elohim et ha'adam. Again, it all comes back to man, right? The culmination, the perfection of creation. That's why man has to be perfected. Vayivara Elohim et ha'adam betzalmo betzel Elohim bara oto zachar ve'nekeva, nukva, bara otam. Yesod, foundation, is male, and nukva, female, receives, male and female. This aspect must, just as they were created together, they have to once again join together and become as one. So you see, the way God created ha'adam, vayivara Elohim et ha'adam, which is both male and female, is the way all of reality was created, as Adam is the microcosm of all of creation. God told Adam, you will now rule all of the created beings. You will everything, everyone, everything. You're going to name them. You're going to own them. That's why when Adam fell, all of reality fell with him, because they were his responsibility. So when we refer to the Nukva in Kabbalistic terms, it is the last face aspect of the world of emanation that is constructed of the Sphira, the attribute of Malchut, kingship. Malchut is where the feet is. So you have Keter, crown, above the head. It's not part of the head, it's above the head. We have no access to that. Then you have Chokhmah. Everything on the right is male, everything on the left is female. The middle is balance. And then also you have the upper Sphirot, the middle Sphirot, middle and lower Sphirot. And then you have from Yesod, so we have Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, excuse me, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. Malchut, kingship, that is the feminine aspect. Yesod is a positive, it's like a plus minus on the thing, is the masculine aspect, which gives to the feminine aspects. And the feminine, the female, then absorbs it, right? And then rises up to the level of Keter. Okay, so like we said, this bears the secret of the face of Leah and Rachel. This is the aspect of Malchut, kingship. Bears a secret of the face of Leah and Rachel, where Rachel is the main focus, also known as the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is the root of all the lower worlds, and the entire works of man is to rectify her. That's everything we do. L'shem yichud kudsha b'richu u'shchinte. I'm doing this for the yichud, for the unification of kudsha b'richu, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy and Blessed Behi, u'shchinte, and his Shekhinah, u'shchinte. Right? Everything we do, that is for this. That's reality. So the secret of the 2 Sabbaths is Yesod, foundation, male, in the 6th. That is also the 6th of the lower Sphirot. And the culmination of the 6,000 years. And Malchut, kingship, female, the last of the 7th Sphirot, and the representation of Shabbat. Shabbat is called Hamalka, the queen. It is the feminine aspect. And so we're talking about that connection, that fusion between, that change once the end of the 6th going into the 7th happens. And these 2 aspects of time in the 7th are 1, time itself, and 2, the ascent after the destruction. To sum this part up, the 2 parts to remember are the 6th millennia, which is the time of the 12-hour destruction, and the ascent of the 7th millennia, separate from the 6th into eternity. So essentially the 7th millennia is the passageway to eternity. We're not in eternity yet, not fully, because things still fuse, things still change, things still ascend. It's not like anything needs to be rectified anymore, but there still is an ascension process. It is the end of the world as we know it, that is the 7th millennia, and the beginning of the new reality. which still, like we said, ascends. In the Ramchal's Ma'amar Ikarim, he says that after the resurrection of the dead, there will be the great day of judgment. After those who are worthy will be prepared to remain in eternity, each man according to his level. Not everybody is going to be in the same place. We don't know what this new reality is necessarily going to look like. We can speculate, but again, this goes beyond our scope of understanding. You can read all the books and have all the visions and everything, but you cannot get to that level because it has not been given to the world yet. You understand? Maybe to a few individuals, Moses for sure one of them, because he witnessed all of reality while he was still alive. But we're not supposed to know these things. We're not on that level. Nobody needs to be on that level. That's the level of Moses. Let him be on that level. It's all good. And this world will return to tohu vavohu, chaos and void, meaning that the world will lose its current form and water will return to water as it was in the beginning of creation. The righteous who have been summoned to eternity, the Holy One, blessed be He, will raise them up by His word to be as ministering angels without any dependence on this world. However, they will not yet achieve the real goodness. We're talking about after the resurrection of the dead, when we become spiritual beings, we will not yet achieve the real goodness that they deserve, but only once the world stands in its allotted time of chaos as decided by the supernal wisdom. In other words, how long that's going to happen, we don't need to know this. We don't need to figure it out. We're just showing you the sequence of events, how long this is going to take. Yeah, it's an 8th millennia. Does that mean that it's going to be 1,000 years? If we stop counting time as we know it, it could be 10 billion years. But we're going to experience time differently, you see? Then, he says, then it will be remade in a different form, befitting of the aspect of eternity, whatever that looks like, as the righteous will dwell in her and exist in her forever, enjoying the true goodness and splendor, each man according to his level. Now, if you're lost, let's recap. So these are the levels of ascent from the end of the 6th into the 7th and moving forward towards the 8th. 1. By the end of the 6th millennia, there will be the coming of Mashiach, the revelation of God's unity, the resurrection of the dead, the great day of judgment, the completion of the revelation of the singularity. Va Hashem l'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad. One, unity, singularity. No separation between anything. 2, in the 7th millennia, the world returns to the state of tohu vavohu, chaos and void, removes the construct of time as we know it, and returns to its pre-creation state. Tohu vavohu. 3, furthermore, those who are worthy of eternity are conditioned for the renewal of the world in the 8th millennia. You have to be conditioned for what is to come. You have to be prepared, or meaning you will be prepared, not you yourself will prepare because you won't know what to do. But the fact that you're going through this, it will prepare you for what is to come. The Ramchal explains in the Book of Rules, in the 7th millennia, the world had not yet been renewed, and so the body will not need to change its governance, but rather the Holy One, blessed be He, makes wings for the righteous who hover over the face of the water, like we discussed, and the holiness of the soul is going to sustain the heaviness of the material, so that the righteous will not be dependent upon bodily needs, even though reality has not been renewed. So in other words, where do we see this happen? With Moses. From the moment that Moses went up, first time to Mount Sinai, 40 days, 40 nights, Moses slept no more. He did not need sleep. Moses did not drink. Moses did not eat. He didn't need this anymore. The heaviness of the body, the heaviness of the world was subservient, was secondary to the spiritual self that was governing the body. Okay? So, and again, and also his body was refined. So this is what's going to happen in the 7th millennia. Now, as we said earlier, during this time of chaos, within the 7th millennia, the world will return to the state of water in water from Genesis 1:6. And God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the water, and let it be a separation between water and water. We're going back to that unification again. Everything has to be one. That separation will unify, hence the singularity. And what we saw before that in Genesis 1:2, Ve'aretz hayta tohu vavohu, going back further. Tohu vavohu, ve'choshech al pnei tehom, ve'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim. Now the earth was astonishingly empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God, of Elohim, was hovering over the face of the water. So we're going back to that in stages, going backwards. As we said, this is where the world returns to. And it was before creation and separation. And that is why the righteous will hover over the face of the water like the Spirit of Elohim, because they will be governed by the Spirit. That will be the governing force, though the physical body still remains. How's that going to look? I don't know. We don't know. We can imagine. Now, here's the catch. We know that the seventh millennia is 1,000 years. But within these 1,000 years, the concept of time, like we said, as we know it, removes itself from the governance of the world. So if you think about it like this, even during the 6 days of creation, the sun and the moon and the stars, the constellations, the solar system and its cycles, by which we live today, which dictates the 24-hour day, day and night, seasons, years, and so on, all this only came about on day 4. So how long was day 1? Was it 1,000 years? Was it 1 billion years? Who's to say? We don't know. But time did not start until the 4th day. But we also know that time still didn't start until Adam took his first breath. And yet still, in the Garden of Eden, we saw so many things going down over there. Look at this. In addition to all this, we've also learned that even after Adam was created, he had time to what? Lose his first one. All this happened on the day, on that Friday. Adam had already time to lose his first wife, name every living creature according to his understanding of its essence. He told the angels, the angels like, what is man that you are mindful of him? God's like, can you name that being and that being and that being? You're like, no. Angels don't have the ability to create or to think creatively. Only man can do this. Angels move like this. Man moves like this. Up or down. Angels side to side. Okay, so again, Adam understood the essence of the light that he saw, and he named that dog and that cat and that donkey, right? And their names are actually according to their personality. In Hebrew, of course. Anyway, so from the time that Adam was actually created, brought to life, all these things went down. He had time to lose his wife, name every living creature according to his understanding of their essence, cohabit with each of them to find out, I need myself, somebody that's more like, me. Perform the work in the Garden of Eden, be put to sleep while God created Eve from his side, the two of them then living in the Garden of Eden, perform unification not only with each other, but with Satan and the serpent, eat from the tree of knowledge, be judged, and then be expelled, all within the 11th hour of his creation. This is obviously not time as we know it. It's not as simple as 6 days as we know it. That's why what are we learning here? We're learning over here the governance of time. In other words, it goes way deeper than there were 6 days of creation according to how we know it. And since God created man in his image, this is what God looks like. No, it goes so much deeper than this, as I hope you're starting to get the idea of. What this shows us is that there is time as we know it, which is what began the moment Adam was expelled, the moment Adam became physical reality here in the world as we know it. And there is a different concept of time outside of time, which we cannot even begin to fathom. You don't have it. We don't have it. And that is what we refer to as eternity. Even the revelation of eternity takes time and is not revealed all at once according to the order of God. It is only step by step. That is the order of God. One step at a time, little by little, so that reality can prepare to receive the things to come. You don't just dump. Never. Everything has a process. When people want to convert, they want to become Jews, it is years. It is process. It is sacrifice. It is understanding. It is letting everything go. It is retraining yourself, and is one step at a time in order to become a Jew. If you want to go be another religion, say a line, raise your hands, say yabba dabba doo, and you're done. That doesn't look anything according to how God created reality. Everything is a process. Everything takes time, both building up creation and then tearing it down, going into a new reality. Remember how we started this class? Why can God just not go, boom, new reality? Because that's not the way he governs the world. It's not the way he governs the universe. Okay, so step by step, so you can prepare for the things to come. God makes sure that you are prepared for everything to come. If you're going through any kind of tragedy or travesty or difficulty, it is you are being prepared for what is to come. So when it comes, you will be able to handle it. Look back at your life. See that that's not a true statement. From the 7th millennia onward, this is the time of primordial man, Adam Kadmon. Like we said, this is the string of light that descends from the eternal. Oh, now we're getting more serious, okay? And over time, because there is no time as we know it, nor can we measure it because this information has not been given to human beings. Since this reality we cannot comprehend at this state, that is the governance of eternity, Netzach, that slowly reveals itself until the level of what is called Netzach Netzachim, eternal eternity, where the lights of the 72 come into reality, and that is that time of that time. That is the time of that time. The 72, this is the 72-letter name of God. Now, this name has 72 words, as well as the numerical value of how you would write the 4-letter name of God. There's several different ways to write it. There's the 42-letter name, the 63-letter name, the 72-letter name, and other numbers, and they each have different meanings. But there is an actual 72-letter name of God taken from a few verses over there in Exodus. We're not going to go into that right now. As the Ramchal says in 138 openings of wisdom, from Atik, the primordial face, from emanation constructed from primordial man, and upward, these are the lights of the face. The 7th millennia are the lights of the mouth. The 8th millennia, the lights of the nose. The 9th millennia, the lights of the ears, and the 10th millennia, the lights of the hair, and those are the 72 lights as we mentioned. Now, all this, says the Ramchal, is what will be revealed in the levels of eternity starting at the 7th. 7th is a whole new reality. We're only ascending from them. The rectification is already done. Now we're in the ascension process. The reason this is called eternity is because there is no more death. And it is important to make a distinction between the time of ascent until the 10 millennia. Once we read the 72 lights, the time thereafter is what is called Netzach Netzachim, eternal eternity. Okay, so there's a difference between the 7th and obviously the 10th. Up until here are the words of the Ramchal. So to clarify before I let you go, we were told that the 7th millennia is in fact 1,000 years, to match the 6,000 years that came before. So remember, it needs to have the same governance of time because it still is connected to that. But within these 1,000 years, even the concept of time begins to change because it is connected to what comes next. So within the 7th millennia, the concept of time is stripped away. And though we refer to the 8th, 9th, and 10th millennia as millennia, 1,000 years, they are not 1,000 years as we know it, because it is immeasurable. It could be 1 billion years, like we said, and it could be over, just a flash. But we won't know because there's no more time. Therefore, we are to take these matters or stages or levels of ascent. They are levels of ascent, not, okay, time's up, now we're going to the 8th. No, this was what happens here, this is what happens here, and this is what happens there. That's where they got these 1,000 years, the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th millennia. When creation began, after the tzimtzum, the constriction, the restriction, primordial man and his branches were revealed. Now, what is this constriction? Like we said, God is everything and he is everywhere. He always was, he always is, and he always will be. He has no beginning and no end, and all of reality and everything in it was created by him. It is him, you see. But in order for God to create this reality, he restricted himself to give space, makom, for our reality to exist. That is a true act of chesed, of loving kindness, restricting from yourself to give life. For no good reason, knowing full well how man would repay him, right? But it's those few along the way that made it all worth it, obviously, starting with Abraham. And that is why God is also referred to as Hamakom, the space, because the space, reality, is him as well. Yes, when we point up, say God, that's so you understand the concept. What, is God more up there than he is right over here? In my hands, everywhere, in my thoughts, everywhere. Everything is God. Everything. So, again, that's why God is Hamakom, because he is everywhere and fills everything. Now, when Adam was created, as we have learned over the years, he filled up this space and was so bright and powerful that the angels began to worship him as Elohim, because they themselves could not behold God, since God has no form. He simply is. This is confirmed in Ezekiel 3:12. And a wind lifted me up, and I heard behind me the sound of greater uproar. Blessed is the glory of the Lord from his place. Baruch kevod Hashem mi mekomo. Because his place is everywhere. And the angels themselves cannot say that God is either here or there. That is not the truth, because that would put a limit on the Creator. God is not just here, therefore he cannot be there. He is everywhere, all the time. Omnipresent, right? Now, primordial man, who had the power of Elohim, not Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Elohim, created angels, had the potential. Elohim are also created angels, mind you. They're also called Elohim. Lo yelecha Elohim acharim al panai. You will not have other Elohim in my stead. So Adam had the power of Elohim. He had the potential to surpass them as well, like we said, because he has free will to ascend and descend, while angels have free will, but they can only move side to side. In any case, there is a reason in Deuteronomy 20:19, Adam is called a tree of the field. And so the first branches of Adam Kadmon, primordial man, are the 72 in the skull representing the hair, and they are heavily concealed. Wow, I just got a whole new understanding right now. Why does a married woman supposed to cover her hair, right? It reveals the glory of God. Why do we have to cover our hair? Look at it, think about it. If you go into a church, you remove your hat, right? To expose your head. You go into a synagogue, you cover your head, because to make a clear separation between you and God, it is a sign of humility. Polar opposites. Wow. Anyway, if you're thinking of an actual tree, like we said, branches, if you're thinking of an actual tree, then at least think of it as an upside down tree, because that's essentially what it is. The roots are upwards. Think of a massive, big, beautiful tree from going upwards, downwards. So you have the roots are going upwards. And remember the teaching we did, calling all Jews, called the upside down world. Like we said, olam hafuch, an upside down world. We're working from up downwards, going from the 72 and then into the 63. That's split into three groups, the 63 letter name. The upper, ears, the middle, nose, the lower, mouth, right? Ears, nose, mouth. And in the lower world of the mouth, that is where the seventh millennia is revealed. From there on, the worlds keep descending until you reach the lowest of all the worlds, and that is where we are at, this world right now. This is the order from upwards, downwards, from the top to bottom. But the Ramchal comes and gives us a chidush, and new information, and that is the order of things and the governance from down to up. In other words, he's bridging that gap. Meaning, at the end of the 6,000 years and beginning of the seventh millennia is where the revelation of the governance of primordial man begins. Wow, this is how man was created in the very beginning, even before the Garden of Eden. Because we have to already rectify the sin of Adam and Eve within the Garden of Eden, still within the 6,000 years. Now we're talking about experiencing what man was like when he was actually created. Yeah. Anyway, starting with the lights of the mouth, then the world begins to be renewed. And then the 8th millennia, which is within the realm of the lights of the nose. Then we have the 9th millennia, the lights of the ears, and the 10th, which is Kodesh Lashem, holy for God. It says these are the lights of the hair. And this concludes our class of the 7th millennia, the passageway to eternity. Won't you join me next week as we discuss the 8th? As always, thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the week and have Shabbat Shalom. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. Bye-bye.